Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Warrior from the Paladin Journal, and this is my review for the first two episodes of Ahsoka, which released 2 days ago. And this is the latest Star Wars live action series from Disney, following on from the successes and the foundations built by previous shows like The Clone Wars, Rebels, and The Mandalorian, where we've seen some of these characters before, and some new villains, some other new characters together, all of them combining to form a really nice cast that is quintessentially Star Wars. Now, to begin with, first things first, when is Ahsoka set? Ahsoka, like The Mandalorian, is a post Episode 6 series. It follows on from the events where the Emperor was killed by Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader at the end of Return of the Jedi, and it can also be considered to be a direct sequel of Rebels from where that show ended. And it continues the journey of not just Ahsoka, the title character, but also several members of the Ghost crew from Rebels, such as Sabine Wren, Hera Syndulla, Chopper, Ryder Azadi, and many others. Now, that's our setting for the show. The characters themselves. The show has a huge cast of characters from the first two episodes alone. Uh, and like I've talked about, it has some legacy characters, but also some new ones. The most important of which are two new villains introduced in the show, and they are called Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati. At the start of the show, we're not sure who they are. Are they former Jedi or some new Sith that have shown up or whatever? But as the show progresses through the first two episodes, we learn that Baylan is definitely a former Jedi, and Shin, she may or may not be a former Padawan. We just don't have enough information. But the show kicks off with a kick-ass and badass introduction to these two villains as they tear through a New Republic ship looking for one of their co-conspirators, Morgan Elsbeth, a villain that we first saw on The Mandalorian in season 2, which was also the debut episode for Ahsoka in live action. Whereas, in the animated shows, she had been voiced by Ashley Eckstein. Now she was being portrayed by Rosario Dawson, who is a phenomenal actor. And, she did a great job carrying on the legacy from Ashley Eckstein. And now, we get to see her as Ahsoka full on, along with so many other amazing actors like Clancy Brown as Ryder Azadi, or David Tennant voicing the droid Huyang, who is a friend and ally to our protagonists. There's Natasha Lee Bordizzo portraying Sabine Wren, Ivana Sakno as Shin Hati, and Ray Stevenson. He's one of the great actors of the last couple decades. You know, uh, Ray Stevenson sadly passed away a few days before the show was released, and he portrays the villain Baylan Skoll, and his performance was something that I was really looking forward to in the show, and now it's like it's a bittersweet thing to see him in Star Wars as a badass former Jedi. Although he's a villain, so but he does such an amazing job. And then there's also Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera Syndulla, and and Diana Lino Santo reprising her role as Morgan Elspeth, and then so on and so forth, other characters and heroes and villains. So that's our setting, that's our characters. Now the story itself. The story coming into Ahsoka is that our titular hero is looking for where the lost Grand Admiral Thrawn is. Admiral Thrawn is a former senior commander of the Empire's military forces, and he disappeared during the events of Star Wars Rebels. I believe during the very last season, in fact. And him and along with the Jedi Padawan Ezra Bridger, they both disappeared during the siege of Lothal, and that was another bittersweet ending to that show. Although it's being carried on now in with this show with Ahsoka, and now we see that Ahsoka has been tracking rumors of Grand Admiral Thrawn's return, which led her to Morgan Elsbeth, a former ally to Thrawn, pardon me, and that continues here. So we see how all the characters are connecting to each other, how they're all being brought together, and then it's a post Empire galaxy. So we have the New Republic established with Harrison Diller returning as a general, and we see how the Republic has begun to solidify itself as a major power in the galaxy, which you got glimpses of in The Mandalorian, but which really comes full force to the front in Ahsoka, as we expand upon the teasers from Mandalorian, and we see how the Republic has basically begun taking control of not just the former Imperial forces, but also the facilities and everything else, and it all ties together into how the this faction of the Empire's loyalists, led by Morgan and Balin and Shin, how they are trying to spin things their own way. So they are the ones who end up with power in the galaxy, rather than whatever stupid Moff Council is running the remnant of the Empire. And so that's pretty much most of the setup for these two episodes. Um, Balin and Shin, they rescue Morgan from New Republic prison, and Ahsoka is hunting for keys to where Thrawn might be. She discovers a map and an ancient ruin, and the story begins to get a little out there with some of the out of the world concepts, even for Star Wars, that we saw in the Clone Wars animated series, or even a little bit in Rebels. But I'm kind of I'm liking the mystery of what actually is going on, because of course they're not gonna introduce Thrawn like straight up. There's gonna be a bit of a journey for us as viewers, so we get invested and we get that payoff when we see Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn on the big screen for the first time, as far as I know, and that's gonna be just mind-breaking amazing, because Thrawn is one of the best characters ever from the Star Wars expanded universe, and I'm so happy that he is one of the characters that was brought in for the Disney era canon with Rebels and now with Ahsoka. So it's going to be so much fun to see him on the big screen now. And so, anyways, the mystery about Thrawn's disappearance. Not sure if I mentioned it before, but yeah. So Thrawn disappeared along with Ezra Bridger during the siege of Lothal, the final siege of where the planet was rescued by the Republic forces, and that's where the connection with the Rebel crew comes in, especially because Sabine Wren and Hera, they have been missing Ezra for so long. It's been years since his disappearance now, and here comes Ahsoka with a lead on not where one of the most important enemies of the Republic is gonna be Thrawn, but also their friend Ezra, who is a Jedi, and they could, with how things are in the galaxy right now, with Luke struggling to form his own Jedi Order, and Ahsoka just doing things on her own for the Republic as a as a spy, you could say. They could use some more Jedi. And what I really liked about Ahsoka in these first two episodes was all the callbacks to everything that's happened before. There are certain shots and there are certain sequences in the show that directly reference past events that we've seen in the Clone Wars, we've seen in Rebels, we've seen in the Kenobi show earlier this year. I believe it was already this year, or maybe late last year. but it was so much fun. It's like it gives you like if you've been watching all of the Star Wars content in recent years. Like me, I had never finished watching Clone Wars when I began watching it I don't know, 10, 12 years, 15 years ago. When I started watching it, I never finished the show. I'd started watching Rebels when it came out, but I never got past like the middle of season one. So like towards the end of last year and the beginning of this year, I made it my mission to finish watching everything. Because it's like I need to watch this. I am a Star Wars nut, and I'm missing out on all this lore that's been developed over the years, and it was a great experience. And that's what I like about Ahsoka. Like some people would say that it's too much fan service, but I think it's exactly the right amount of fan service because Ahsoka is not like Andor, which is a spin-off of a standalone movie under Disney's helmsmanship of the franchise. And even then, Andor, the characters are really not that well known. So it's like, where's the payoff as a viewer, as a long-term viewer, as a long-term consumer of Star Wars lore? So it's like I really liked it, and I think it was a great choice because it like my thinking is if I had not watched Rebels and if I had not watched Clone Wars or even The Mandalorian, this would have made me want to watch that because I want to get that background on all these characters and these events. And then there's certain shots that are replicated from those shows, and it's like, yeah, I see what you're doing there, writers and directors. Dave Filoni is the main writer and director on the show, but I'm sure that there's a whole team that's been working on these, and I want to say kudos to you guys. Excellent job, and I loved every second of it because to me, Ahsoka felt like it was the perfect sequel show for people who have invested in all these different other offerings from Star Wars over the years. And, it has everything. It has a lightsaber combat galore, whether it's a hallway scene, like a teaser for a hallway scene with Bale and Skull in the opening, or Shin Hati going full berserk, or, even we have Ahsoka fighting a Jedi, or sorry, not a Jedi, fighting an Inquisitor. At least the person looks like an Inquisitor from Rebels. We have blaster action. We have some kind of like little tidbits of like space combat with Hera and an Imperial transport, and these it's little things. And like you see on the screen right now, the droid in the background, Huyang. He's also from the Clone Wars, I believe. He is he from what I remember, if I remember correctly, he was one of the droid trainers for Jedi Padawan who instructed them in how to build the lightsabers. Like the whole hilt and the mechanisms underneath and all that. And here, we see like we have Sabine Wren. She's racing down the out city pathways in Lothal from the main city on the planet. And these scenes, they replicate stuff we've seen on Rebels, and I love that. And this particular scene right here that you see, where we have Ezra Bridger on a comm badge, giving a message to Sabine. That's something that's directly ported over from Rebels in live action. And of course, there's so much more that we see happen in the show. And I'm not gonna go into too much detail about the plot because I believe in keeping this spoiler free. We may do spoilers in the episodes that follow, but for now, I'll keep it, spoiler free as much as I can, with these images that have already been released by Disney being the only indicators of what happens in the show. But I enjoyed every single bit of it. There's nice mystery that's developing. It deals a little bit into the metaphysical of Star Wars as under the Star Wars context, which if you've seen the final 2 seasons of the Clone Wars, and you saw some of the final season of Rebels, where they go really big concept with what is the Force, what is our galaxy, and everything, like how are things powered, what's the core of what makes everything work, you know but and of course they might reference some more expanded universe concepts, which I'm totally fine with. I'm a huge fan of this expanded universe. I read like a dozens of the novels, and dozens of comics, and I pretty much love most of it. So it's like the more the merrier, as they say. So that's the story and the themes and whatnot. The pacing of the episodes, I thought the episodes were, both of them, they were well paced. Um, the first episode kicks off with so much action. It ends on a nice cliffhanger, and then in episode 2, there's lots more action, especially in the climax. And I like that there was nice build up, and they avoid some of the things that some of the stories in Star Wars they sometimes gloss over, or they just like try to make it too explicit, which is the timing and the distances covered. Um, you never get the feeling in this show that characters are jumping too far, or not jumping, they're traversing too fast through the story. And it's like the timeline is a jumble, like you can see in some fantasy shows or whatnot in movies, where it's like does it really make sense? They get there so fast, or they get there so slow, or whatever. And it's like this show, it doesn't explicitly say anything, but it flows nicely, where you never question that thing. And with how much ground they're covering between the different characters and the different locations and the different factions, even it could have been a real mess, but for me personally, it flowed very well. I like the pacing. I liked especially the climax at the end of the second episode, where there's a reaffirmation of relationships between some of the characters, and there's this promise of something really badass about to happen. So I'm really looking forward to the next episode, which will be on the 29th of August on Disney Plus, and I'm hoping it continues in the same way, because I think that this show, it corrects a lot of the mistakes made by Kenobi. It corrects some of the mistakes made by The Mandalorian, and we've only seen the first 2 episodes, so I'm not passing an overall judgment on the other shows. I love Kenobi. I love The Mandalorian enough that I watch it um, as the episodes release, and I like most of it too. But it avoids this thing where it's like it's jumping between characters too fast or too slow, and there's too much exposition with the dialogue, and things are not explained well enough. But it's like they give you tidbits, they connect to so many different things in the Star Wars universe, and then they bring it together, and then you branch out again, and there's some twists and turns, because you as a viewer, like if you've seen all these previous shows, there's a lot of knowledge that you have, but the characters don't have that. So it's like you're like you want to say to the character something, but it's like you can, and you're just like guys, look at that, or look at this, and remember that, remember this, or this was what happened there, whatever. So in the end, my verdict on these 2 episodes is fantastic start. I could not have imagined a better start for this show than what we had. I can certainly imagine a lot worse that could have gone here, but it's like the cinematography is amazing. The actors are all amazing, and again, a huge shout out to Mr. Ray Stevenson, who passed away um, some time ago. and this was his last role. And I've seen him in a movie recently with Liam Neeson, um, and he was pretty decent there. But it's like this is gonna be, I think this is gonna be one of his most iconic roles, on the same level as Titus Pullo from Rome, or so many others in movies and TV shows that he's done in the past. He's a force of nature, and he plays this mysterious Sith-like former Jedi so well, and he has presence. And Diana Lee Santo is also amazing, reprising her role as Dato Marivich. Natasha Lee Bordizzo, I've not seen her before in anything, but she's a very good Sabine Wren. Ivana Sakno as Shin Hati, of course. It's like she's good. I wish we could have seen more of her, just a little bit more. But hopefully we'll see some of her backstory as we progress. Rosario Dawson as a Tyler character, of course, she's like hands down amazing. I've seen her in so many movies over the years. She's always been great. She was also in Marvel's Iron Fist, Iron Fist or Daredevil and Iron Fist also. Um, and great job, Mary Elizabeth Winstead. There are so many people have concerns with her, with her acting, because you know because the character Hera, people have imagined her to be a certain way, even though what we got visually from Rebels is already there. But people were so conflicted. But I think for me personally, she, along with the entire cast, everyone was perfect here. So story perfect, um, characters perfect, acting perfect, cinematography perfect, everything perfect. Really, like I don't think I have really any major issues with the show, and I'm hyped up. I'm pumped for what's gonna happen next, and I'm hoping that the uh, tempo of the show keeps on the same level or better, because these guys, they have a wonderful start, and if they can just keep this up for the rest of the season, it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. And we'll finally have this like huge rewarding payoff in Star Wars that we've not seen for a long time, because the show brings together so many concepts, so many characters, so many locations, and it's gonna be just like a smorgasbord at the end. So, uh, double thumbs up for me, and looking forward to the new episode next week, and I'll be doing another review of that. So, in the meantime, guys, if you want to follow me on my social media channels, you can find those in the description below, and also you can find me on Twitch. Again, link below in the description, and check out my other videos on the channel, and see you guys soon next week. Bye.